And that brings us into
what up,
the
friends?
Olympic controversies. And the biggest Olympic controversy, first of all, and I'm going to contradict myself, and I'm telling you this ahead of time because I don't want you to think that I was accidentally. I am purposely going to contradict myself when it comes to a later story in the program. But the biggest corruption is the IOC themselves, the International Olympic Committee. They have been embroiled in so many scandals. Again, anything we talked about involving money or those kind of scams, but even things to their migrant workers that worked on building the stadiums and other facilities that weren't getting adequate pay, were dying, were unsafe work conditions, all of these other things that were happening, right? I mean, the Nazis, when they were, and we'll get into this in a second, when they were coming to power, the 1936 Olympics were in Berlin, right? So this is like, it's never been the Olympic way to not have controversy. Yes, it's great. We have the sports, the athletes. We want to celebrate. We want to, enjoy what we're seeing. But at the same time, there's so many things happening in the background which are not being seen and not being heard of. And especially like those migrant workers, the ones that are dying in an unsafe work. That's not acceptable. Like again, billions of dollars are coming through these organizations. They need to be treating the people who are actually helping them to build this up correctly. Do we know that this happens all over the world all the time anyways? Yes, sure. Am I being a utopian, hopeless romantic? Possibly. But the fact is that the Olympics have always had some sort of controversy all the time. Even when it's not an Olympic year, they're involved in something. So let's go back. Let's touch on all the controversies going all the way back, and then we'll come all the way full circle to this year. So it's funny because trickery is originally based in the creation myth of the Olympics. So check this. The myth of the creation of the Olympics is that the first Olympic Games were inspired by a chariot race between a hero named Pelops and the father of his girlfriend, his soon-to-be wife, the girl he wanted to marry. His name, the king, he was the king, right? His daughter was the princess. He was Oneomos. So Oneomos, right? A prophecy warned Oneomos that he would be killed by his son-in-law. So as we know, through all these great stories of history, whether they're true or not, I don't know, I wasn't there. But in classic self-fulfilling prophecy style, right? The king challenges the daughter's suitor to defeat him in a chariot race or die by the young man's hands, right? The hero Pelops. So there were 18 would-be husbands before this boyfriend came along that were all killed. So he knows, Pelops knows what's going to happen within this race, right? There's going to be some kind of chicanery, right? Some kind of bamboozlement. And indeed there was, just not from the side you thought it came from. So what happened was, before the race started, Pelops sabotaged Oneomos' chariot so that the wheels would come off in the middle of the race, and no one knew he did it. He did it in secret. So shortly after the race starts, they're going along, boom, chariot wheels fall off, and the king's horses drag the king to his death. The ancient Olympics are born. So even back then, right, it started. The creation story is a controversy in of itself that would be a major controversy these days. It was later relaunched in Athens in 1896. Our modern Olympics are obviously less bloody, but still full of controversy. So let's again go through the times. 1936 Olympics in Berlin. We talked about this during the rise of the Nazis in coming into power under Hitler. Obviously, Berlin. They were awarded 3 years before Hitler came into power. So the Olympic Committee at least was clean of not knowing that that's what was going to happen. It was even said that Hitler wasn't even sure that he wanted to have the games anyways, because he didn't want all these other minorities and Jewish people and all these other people being there. But he thought it would be a good message for his Aryan race, white supremacy message, to show how in tune they were with the world, so to say, to show that they, or to pretend, obviously, because we know what happened afterwards, but to pretend like they weren't the horrible, evil, malfeasance, just horrible spirits that they were, people that they were. So again, it wasn't even sure. And the greatest part about this story, or about this Olympics at least, is that Jesse Owens, the African American that represented the U.S., went there and just completely shut shit down and told Hitler, yo, big F you to Hitler, like, yo, I'm coming in, I'm demolishing all your white boys, like, we're coming in, right? He's doing it, right? So it showed to Hitler, like, you are not all supremacy, and the one race is not better than any other race, or anything like that. And so this was what was proven through these races, but also all the tricks and things that Hitler tried to pull. Like, even at one point in time, he took off of the American team 2 Jewish athletes, because their names were Marty Glickman and Sam Stroller. He took them off the team and replaced them with Jesse Owens and another African American, Ralph Metcalf, because he didn't want to be beat by the Jewish people. He didn't want Jewish people to upstage him in his own Olympics. So that was obviously a huge controversy. There's the CIA getting involved. We've talked a lot about the CIA on this show already in the first few weeks, but the CIA had a case where they were enlisting people to go and try to get people from Russia back in the Cold War to defect to America, especially Uzbekistanis and Ukrainians and other people that were living in Russia of other ethnic descent that may want to escape. So that's a whole crazy story that I read about the other day, where they had I guess it doesn't really matter now at this point. But the guy, Kentayo, was the guy that they used to try to infiltrate the Russians to try to get people to defect to the United States. So it's said that it's a high level, it's like a candy shop for high level people, leaders, diplomats, businessmen, celebrities, athletes, all these people commingling, cohabitating, and maybe even having some drinks, whatever, and maybe spilling some beans and some tea that they shouldn't be, you know what I mean? So, that in and of itself is a controversy that can happen every year. That could be an issue. How about this one? Obviously, we know recently in the Rio Games, the 100 Russian athletes that were banned for alleged doping. Right? They sent 271 athletes and 116 of them were banned because they tested positive for, these alleged performance enhancing supplements. So, and that's a real big problem, obviously. I mean, we can laugh about it now, I guess, but back in the 84, was it 84 or 88? I can't remember exactly, excuse me, Olympics in the track and field, one of the 100-meter races with Carl Lewis and the other guys, the top 3 placers all tested positive later, including Carl Lewis. And so, and when asked about it, he said, well, if everybody else is doing it, why shouldn't I try to get my advantage, right? I mean, yeah, I guess everybody's doing it. Why not? So we can look back and laugh on things like that now. But then you look at this here, the Chinese team has alleged doping scandal going on right now for this year, and China just beat the U.S. in a 4x100 mixed medley race relay in the swim pool the other day to take the gold. So could the U.S. have some sort of beef with China in that specific swimming race? So these are all controversies that have happened. Speaking of U.S. swimming, let's not let the U.S. get off light. A few years ago, we remember Ryan Lochte and the crew, Jimmy Fagan, Gunnar Bentz, Jack Conger, right? When they got drunk and vandalized the gas station in Rio, and then said they were held at gunpoint on some Jussie Smollett type stuff, you know what I mean? So, and Lochte came out later saying it was all his fault. He completely fabricated the story. So, I mean, it's not just limited to any country or any specific sport or person. This can happen anywhere, So, and it's everything. It's from the extreme, which can be hurtful or even maybe even deadly. The terrorism attacks that we had back in the I'm blanking right now. I apologize. I think it was the games in Mexico, right before the games in Mexico, where they had a terrorist attack. I mean, the 11 Israelis athletes that were killed at one of the games. So we have all of, and it's everything from that to even what we talked about, vandalism with the swimmers. You can even go to recently where the Olympic Committee they were banning all natural swim caps for minorities this year, hijabs for Muslims in France. So again, these controversies span the realm of things that may happen, and it even goes to some less things that might be even a little funny, right? So maybe you talk about the 1904 Olympics in St. Louis where they had the marathon, and they said it was probably the hardest marathon ever. There were hills, traffic, wild dogs. At this point, I'm guessing they're not. Back in the day, they're probably not doing a lot of blocking off of streets and stuff at the time. But American runner, I was looking down because there's a spider crawling across the carpet, but it's harmless. It looks like a baby daddy long leg, so we'll leave him alone. American runner Fred Lords decided after 9 miles that he was tired. He hitched a ride in the taxi cab for the next 11 miles, son. And the car allegedly broke down, so he got out and he ran the rest of the race. Obviously, he was caught cheating. And the person who came in second had actually been I guess poisoned. He'd been given some kind of like mixed concoction of egg whites, brandy, and strychnine. So just wild controversies going on. How about in the 1976 Montreal Olympics, Ukrainian athlete Boris Onyshchenko had his I learned how to pronounce this last night. His épée, which is the fencing sword, the épée. They got the tip, they modified it, and so that it would go off and count a point, even if it didn't hit the person, just when he was like jabbing. And so the Great Britain team called it out. He's like, "Yo, I ain't get hit. Why is he getting a point?" And they got caught for that. So there are some funny ones, but if we're being completely real, because I need to get away from the laughter about it, because it's not really funny. A lot of these controversies are truly serious, especially the death of workers and other things like that. And so the International Olympic Committee in itself should be ashamed, but they're not, and they never are, and they never even bother to apologize. And when they do, it's half-hearted, and we'll get to that here in a second as well. One person I didn't shout out earlier for the U.S. athletes because I was waiting till now. Sha'Carri Richardson, banned because she used marijuana after her mother passed. The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my whole entire life. I didn't know that smoking a little bit of marijuana made you faster and made you run the 100 meters faster. Actually, I would think it would do the complete opposite. I mean, I don't know. I have no clue. I don't run the 100 meters. You know what I mean? I don't run the 100 meters, so I don't know. But I'd assume it's not going to make you faster. So even things like that is just the hypocrisy of the Olympics and having different double standards for different people along the way. And then finally, before we move on to the biggest controversy of this year, I do want to mention a couple other controversies that happened this year. How about the Seine, the river that the triathlons were supposed to be swam in? E. coli levels through the roof. This one girl, she got sick for 4. I think she was on the Dutch team. The rest of her team left. She's still sick, I think, like 4 days later. You can't be having people swim in rivers with E. coli. You shouldn't be swimming in no damn city river anyways. Let me tell you that right now. You come to Nashville and try to swim in the Cumberland, I'm going to tell you you're a dummy, because you're probably going to run into a couple, you're going to run into some stuff you're not going to want to run into. Don't get in that river. Don't get in any damn river in the city. It's stupid. You're going to get some kind of disease you don't want to get. And so making these swimmers swim is both dangerous, ludicrous, not the rapper, shout out, just ridiculousness. I can't believe you would put people's lives at risk like that just for a show. Oh, they swam in the Seine. Oh, it's so beautiful. We had them swim. Shut the... No. Get them to a safe damn place where they can swim, a freshwater lake or something. You got to have one over there. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. All for a show. Oh, by the way, which reminds me, if you've seen the Under Paris on Netflix, it's pretty much, which is crazy that Netflix made that movie and then this happened. It's pretty much the same kind of example, except in Under Paris, it's a shark attack in the Seine, where here it's a fecal matter attack. I would never. You gotta catch me dead swimming in a damn river like that. Anyways, we talked about the Chinese athletes and the alleged doping scandal going on with them. How about the New Zealand? The New Zealand team caught flying a drone over Canada's women's soccer team practice. They are huge rivals. The coach was sent home, 2 other staffers as well sent home. They were deducted 6 points. They ended up coming back to beat Canada, which is kind of like an insult to injury. I felt bad for Canada there. But the 6 points is going to hurt them, so they still are kind of it's unsure. Still got games to go to see what happens there, if they're going to make it or not. But I mean, there's just so much controversy, which, by the way, that reminds me of Spygate. By the way, Bill Belichick, Tom Shady, y'all are still cheaters. Y'all are still bastards and cheaters. Don't think I forgot about y'all. Sidebar, Olympic sidebar, to flame Bill Belichick and Tom Shady. Y'all call him the best quarterback ever. What is wrong with you people? The disgust I have for your opinions. I'm just joking. Anyways, let's move on to the biggest controversy this year. Y'all know what happened. The Olympic opening ceremony. There was one portion of the ceremony, and I was actually at my grandmother's house watching it while it was occurring. And I was, in and out talking to my grandmother and her fine ass hairstylist. That girl was beautiful. Sorry, excuse me. She was on another level. I need to move to Puerto Rico. Anyways, she was doing my grandmother's hair, and we were all talking. But I was watching the ceremony that was going on, and when this actual scene happened, I was like, it's really odd. I mean, I saw like the guy, the Dionysus, right? He's supposed to represent the god of wine and ecstasy, Dionysus, the guy in the blue that was like laid out on like the muffin top or whatever. He had a muffin top. Anyways, right? Like I'm seeing him. I'm seeing the other drag queens dancing around him, right? We're seeing all these like, dances and colors and people sashaying down the walkway, which, makes sense. Fashion, Paris, all that stuff. And I'm not even here to say anything about the LGBT community or about the drag queens or whatever. Artistic expression, France's culture, a mix of those things is why they decided to do that, right? That was their decision. The thing is, what happened there, and we'll get into each of these different aspects, what happened there was a lot of pretty much all the Christians and Catholics and people of Christian faith around the world got upset because the scene resembled the Last Supper with Jesus and his apostles. Now, let's set the scene for you. They have the fashion runway. You start to see some models walking down. Then it pans over. There's a table full of people, drag queens. There's a girl in the middle by the name of DJ Barbara Butch. Barbara Butch. Apparently a LGBTQ icon. I didn't know, but she's apparently a huge DJ in the LGBTQ community. So she was there, and she had what appeared to be a halo sort of behind her, right? A contraption that resembled a circle behind her head. That could be considered a halo. So, first seeing it while I'm, talking and not really paying too much attention, not much of it caught my eye. I missed the beginning of it, so I didn't see the first start of it when they like panned over because I was looking to the side. But when I came back, I saw the guy with the beard in like the dress, and then I saw the blue guy, right? And so I'm like, okay, odd, but okay, whatever. This whole thing has been really danced, so it's not really that odd, which I thought was odd anyways. Not even just I don't care about the drag queens or whatever. You want to dance. I just thought it was weird that they danced the whole time anyways. I was like, man, I even said at one point in time, I was like, is it me or is everyone dancing? Like the announcers were dancing, the people they were panning by were dancing. I'm just like, can we just get like 1 minute of just like stop moving? Like I'm getting a little like seasick with all this. Anyways, it was just too much dancing, way too much dancing. But anyways, that's neither here nor there because that had nothing to do with that. That was just the overall ceremony. But it was said to later resemble the Last Supper, Leonardo da Vinci's famous painting, and insulting to the Christian Catholic community around the world. So, I was scrolling through Twitter as this is happening and stuff like that, and I start to see the stuff pop up, and I look at the picture, and they have the picture of the opening of the DJ and the drag queens and stuff, and then they have the Last Supper, and they put them side by side right when they open up, and I'm like, okay, they were in the exact poses as Jesus and his apostles, like exact arms, heads, everything, and I was like, okay. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, maybe it's, we'll see what happens with this. So obviously Twitter moves very fast. You don't have to wait very long. And then all this stuff starts to come out about obviously the offense that is being had by one portion of the world, the community, and then the other side trying to defend themselves as being, culturally inclusive and all of these things, which is what the whole ceremony was attempting to be, was culturally inclusive. And I get that. I understand completely. The artistic director, Thomas Jolly, went on to say that was not their intention. The Olympic Committee, the IOC, who we talked about earlier, half-ass apology that we talked about, came out and was like, well, if you were offended, we didn't mean to. And then things started to come out. Well, no, it wasn't based on that. It was actually based off of a famous painting from Greek mythology about a baccharal, which is a Greek party back in the day. And it's Dionysus and all of these different things. And they show this painting that it could be a representative of. And I think here in this case, two things can be true. I believe both of those things are true. I believe, because it was too unmistakable of the poses, I do believe that it started off with the Last Supper pose. I do believe that. If you look at this side by side, it's just too hard to say it's not. And there's a smoking gun, which I'll get to in a second. But I also believe the rest of it had to do with the Greek painting, right? You had Dionysus there. He's whatever. They're having the wine. They're eating the grapes, whatever. And again, I'm not here to say anything about the LGBT community. I am a Christian. Yes. I love Jesus. Yes. I'm been raised Catholic, right? My whole life. But I have no issue or whatsoever with your lifestyle choice or whatever you want to do. I also believe, like Jesus said, that we shouldn't judge. So if you want to be gay, if you want to do whatever you want to do, that is fine by me. I do not care. I support your right to choose, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. So then that's where this dichotomy comes into play, right? I understand why Christians and Catholics and people like that will be upset if they figure if they're thinking of that as a mockery, which if it is, then yes, they have the right to be upset. Of course they do. But, and I'm looking at this from both sides. If you're looking at this from the artistic point of view, artistic freedom, other things like that, how different is this than a comedian making fun of a different race in their set or religion in their set? But then I have to back up and look at it from a more macro point of view and not just the micro, and say, well, This is on the Olympic stage, shown to millions of people around the world. This isn't just some Netflix special. So then that takes on a bigger tone of how much does this actually mean? How much of an effect does this actually have? What are they trying to accomplish? What was trying to be done through this? And no matter whether they were trying to be blasphemous or make a mockery or not, and whether or not you think that that's okay. And again, on the side of artistic freedom and people being able to have the freedom of speech and things like that, well, then technically, if you believe in that, then you believe that this shouldn't be more than an offense to the people that it is. Which again, is understandable that they will be offended. If you watched a comedy special and someone made fun of your race, you'd probably be offended, right? You might laugh, and you might laugh if it's somebody else's race, but you might be offended if it's yours. So I get that. And everybody has their right to feel the way that they want to feel. But it's hard for me to accept them going back and saying, no, this wasn't what this was about, when the actual DJ we mentioned earlier, Barbara Butch, posted on her social media that it was the new gay testament, and then later deleted it before the IOC and the artistic director apologized. I mean, it's the main character of the skit literally telling you. And as I always tell you, when people are talking about important issues, you should probably listen, because they're probably telling you the truth somewhere in there, and you have to decipher that. So now you're like, okay, well, now you were trying to make fun of or possibly hurt other people. Now, again, I don't believe that it was done in necessarily malice for a certain set of people. I believe, it probably going along with the whole Marie Antoinette, France Revolution, which was against the Catholic Church, was against Christianity. I mean, that's all out there if you know history. That was the whole point. Then if it's going along with that timeline, that tradition, that culture, and that's what they're trying to represent, then you can't say that you might not see something like this in there. Now, can you be offended? Of course you can. Again, everyone has the right to feel the way they feel. And them doing that is their decision. They're going to have to live with that choice. In my eyes, though, my question is, how does it help the movement? If you are trying to, and the LGBT community has been trying to come on for a long time, getting their rights, getting, the treatment they deserve as human beings and all of these things, it seems to me counterproductive to do something like this that may offend a huge portion of the world when you're trying to get acceptance within the world. So to me, it's more like, I think y'all did more of a disservice to yourself than you really helped yourself at all. Like, if anything, that's really going to hurt yourself more with these people who are offended now than it's going to necessarily help you to get more rights or be more accepted among. Because, I mean, we can say it is what it is. You know what I mean? The LGBT community is still not accepted in a lot of places around the world. There's a lot of countries that they do not accept that. Right? France, they do. US, they do. But there's a lot of places they don't. And again, I don't care. You do whatever you want to do. You be a damn furry if you want to be a furry. I don't care. I don't care. I'll support you. As long as you're not hurting nobody. Now, you going out and mass murdering people, mass shooting people, things like that. Yeah, now you got to stop that shit. You know what I mean? You got to stop that. That ain't happening. We ain't having that. But again, it's up to you. I come to bring you facts. I come to bring you the research from both sides of the coin. I give you both sides of the story, and I let you make your own decisions. Do I believe it was based off the Last Supper? Yes. Do I believe it was based off of the other painting? Yes. I believe it was both. Do I believe they were necessarily trying to hurt people? No. Were they trying to make a mockery? Yes. Do I believe that artistic freedom includes the ability to mock people? Yes. But do I believe that those people have the ability to be offended? Yes. All of these things are true. And all of these things can be true simultaneously. But again, I'm not the one that has to deal with those decisions and what may come from that, because I'm not the one that did it. I will say one thing, though. It is telling, quite telling, when the next day, right? When the next day, Paris loses power all over the city, and the one place that still had lights on in the city of Paris was the Basilica, which is the Catholic Church. The only place that still had lights on. I ain't getting struck down today. Not for y'all. That was your decision. Y'all got to deal with that. Thank you, Lord, for another day. I appreciate it. Thank you, God. Hey, y'all got to deal with that, because if that don't tell you something, that tells me a little something. Tells me a little something about what we got going on, because that's not just a coincidence. Sorry. Not sorry. That's not just a coincidence. Can't be. And if it is, it's a very telling coincidence. How about that? But the point is that the Olympic Games have always had controversy, and this year is no different. The IOC in itself is just corruption, and this global tradition of invoking these controversies and showing them to around the world in lieu of actually showing the athletic glory, the countries and their beautiful cultures and different, everything that can come along with the different countries and cultures and athletes and games and sports and things that don't necessarily bring divisiveness between us. Because again, what does it bring to your cause? It doesn't really help you. Just coming from a neutral point of view, I'm just saying, probably the grand scheme of the global events, not helping. Now, does it bring up conversation? Yeah. If that's what they wanted to do, bring up conversation through controversy, it definitely did that. Definitely did that, right? They offended, they confused, and they inspired some people all at once. There are plenty of people who were inspired by the same performance. So things can be seen, obviously, from different ways, as we know. And you have to examine that dichotomy. You have to examine the different sides to see, okay, well, where are these people coming from? And that's the problem we have in this world. And the problem why we are so divisive right now is because we have differing opinions that are so different, it won't even allow us to hear another person and their opinion. So then we're divisive, then we're going against each other, then we're fighting, then things are happening, people are getting killed, worlds are getting blown up, wars are starting, and all of these things, when we need to be considering everyone as a human being, as who they are, and considering their opinion, but not trying to hurt other people, not trying to throw things in people's faces, not trying to better your movement through the hurt of another movement. So, but anyways, the Olympics are wasteful. Again, they get billions of dollars, a lot of crooks and politicians and countries and autocrats and all these different hands in the pot. And it's so corrupt. It's just not even funny. So for them to have all these controversies is not a surprise at all.